Nan and I did, and to talk about the interview and how we would be doing this. Oh, please end your stop your video. Thank you. Um, and so we got this all set up. So we have bonded. So anyway, why don't we go ahead and get started? Actually, the very first question is a great way to start. So, Hannah, I'm going to ask you to give us a brief bio about yourself, the agency you work for, and how you became an agent.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, Bethany. And thank you guys all for spending your Friday the 13th. I see a couple of familiar names in the crowd, maybe a client or two. Hello. And maybe some future clients as well. We'll see.
Right.
Like Bethany said, my name is Hannah Van Valls, and I am a literary agent with Bel Castro Agency. I've been with Bel Castro since about May of this year. And before that, I was with another literary agency, Corvisiero Literary Agency, for just a couple of months before finding my home at Bel Castro. Before making the switch to agenting, I was the acquiring editor at a young adult imprint at HarperCollins. So young adult has always kind of been my first love when it comes to publishing. As far as getting into publishing, I actually got my start as a bookseller at my local Barnes and Noble before I even thought about publishing or doing something with books as a viable career. I was in the ivory tower of academia. I attended the University of Michigan, and after that, I moved to Israel, where I was an archaeologist for a little while.
Oh,
I know
wow.
I'm seeing Bethany's shocked faces, so it's a little bit of a career took a little bit of a turn there. Um, After that, I did my master's degree and part of a PhD before I left academia at the University of Chicago. I left academia just because it's a hard it's a hard place to be in, especially when you're in the humanities. And you can imagine you probably don't really see a whole lot of job postings for archaeologists in the Chicagoland area. Um, so I kind of at that point, I was in my mid-20s, and friends had already had jobs and stuff, and I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, when I grow up. And I think that's part of it. Was I didn't really want to grow up and have that 8 to 5 job that you weren't in love with, that didn't give you energy. And I was like, well, I've always liked reading. I've always enjoyed reading. And I got to pay my bills. I got to pay off some of these student loans and stuff. So I got a job at Barnes and Noble. And from there, I got a job at HarperCollins. And my job at Barnes and Noble absolutely informed my knowledge of the market. I worked in the children's department at Barnes and Noble. And it was just a huge asset to me in helping me to know what books were selling and what customers wanted. So yes, I feel like I have been on all different kinds of sides of publishing before finding my home now as an agent at Bel Castro.
Overqualified.
Yeah.
just a little. Oh, that's funny that you went to the University of Michigan, because my parents are graduates of MSU.
Oh,
And
right.
a bunch of my relatives graduated from MSU, including one of my nephews. So
Oh,
I
oh,
bleed
Bethany.
I bleed green and white, but hopefully when I send you my query, because I'm going to, hopefully you won't hold that against me.
I'll try to look past that bias and
I know, right? It's tough. Well, it's almost as bad as, see, I live in Texas, so it's almost as bad as Houston and Dallas. They hate each other. So I figure as long as I'm not going to like UT or Texas Tech or U of H or any of the Houston colleges, maybe I'm okay, because I won't, if I run into a Texan, I won't be in trouble. But I do have relatives who go to Texas Tech. So, and folks, if you see like a weird bushy thing at the top, like brown thing, that's just my cat. He likes to drop his tail over the
Hello,
top.
kitty.
He is, that's what he likes to do. He has to be near me at all times. And I will warn you all that we are recording. This is for the company, so just a heads up. Okay, so what do you primarily represent, and what is your favorite genre?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm focusing my list primarily on the children's literature space, picture books, middle grade, and young adult. But I'm also open to select adult genres. I will say that I have yet to sign an adult client or an adult genre writing client. All of my clients are technically adults over 18.
Right.
Yes. So far, I'm a little young adult heavy, again, just because that young adult is my bread and butter. I would love to find some amazing picture books. I would love to find some author illustrators. I would love to find some magical and quirky middle grade, and some I would love to find some romantic comedy in the adult space.
Yeah. So there you go, folks. And this leads me to how we're going to do the pitches. And I meant to say this at the beginning, but since some people were filing in still, I'll say it now. At the end of the interview, I will open up the chat box, and what you all will do, and those of you who want to pitch to Hannah, you will say what genre you write. So you'll list the genre in the chat box, and Hannah will pick 3 people if we have enough time. And if she wants to, we might do more, but 3 is the max. And then what you'll do then is you will unmute and put on your video, and you will have a minute to pitch. That is, it needs to be the length of a tweet. So just that long. So you have to make it short. So be ready. So how do you decide which authors you're going to offer a full request to for representation?
Yeah, that's a really great question. A lot of times it will come down to the query letter. I will first read a query letter. I use Query Manager. A lot of agencies Query Manager. It helps me just stay a little organized, and to not have my inbox overwhelming, which can happen sometimes. I think to a lot of people, just sometimes my inbox is a little bit of a black hole, but Query Manager keeps things all neat and organized. I will say sometimes, you get the queries that are addressed to the wrong person, but honestly, those don't bother me that much. Sometimes I get called Heather in query letters. Sometimes I'm addressed, the query letter is addressed to an entirely different agent. I usually don't sweat those things that much. I feel like as an agent, you understand that people are pitching widely. And I have for sure been guilty of sending emails calling people the wrong name. So we're all human. So if you ever make a mistake like that, don't beat yourself up over it. It probably happens to agents more than you think.
Right.
After I check out the query letter, what the most important part of a query letter to me is that commercial hook, is what makes this book fresh, what makes this book stand apart. I also take a look at comparative titles that are used. Comparable titles should be within the last couple of years. And also, of course, within the genre and the market that you're writing for. I like to take a look at comparative titles because I like to know that you're reading in your genre. I like to know that you have at least a little bit of awareness of the market that you're writing for. Writing is something that is a hobby for a lot of people, but when you make that decision to query, when you make that decision to pursue traditional publication, you're deciding to enter into the business of writing. So when it comes to entering into the business of writing, you need to have a little bit of that market knowledge. As far as how to acquire that market knowledge, when the pandemic is over, maybe take a visit to your local Barnes and Noble, take a visit to your local indie store, and try to picture where your book would be on the shelf. Who is it sitting around? Is it in the young adult fantasy, or is it an adult fantasy? If it's a picture book, are you nonfiction or are you fiction? After that, after the query letter, I go right to the pages. Most agents request anywhere between, first 5 pages to first 50 pages. And most agents know pretty early on if it's a voice that they are connecting with. Now, I want to make a little bit of a distinction between a character voice and an author voice. I think that distinction is very important. So for me, when I pass on a project, and honestly, I do pass on most projects. I can't take on everyone as a client as much as I wish that I could. But when I pass on a project, it's oftentimes because the character voice is not right for me. That means it's just that project that I'm passing on, and I'm more than willing, I'd be thrilled to consider anything else that you have as an author.
Right.
So if those opening pages really draw me in, a lot of times I will request a partial first. For me, that's the first 3 chapters, just to make sure that the voice continues, the pacing is right. And if it's something that I can't get out of my head, then I request a full. And oftentimes I will have that full manuscript for a couple of weeks. This is because it's these days, I feel like it's very hard for me to focus on books, and I have to be in the mood for certain genres, and I don't want to sell anyone short. If I'm, if they write like a dark fantasy, but I'm in the mood for a rom-com, like it's probably not the best time for me to read their dark fantasy full then.
Right. I remember what you're talking about in voice and all of that, and how you said that even if you pass on one manuscript, that doesn't mean you never want to see anything. I had queried you under my other pen name, and you had passed, and you were so sweet about it. Honestly, one of the nicest rejections I've ever gotten. And I admit that I had sat there looking at it going, okay, I hope that it's not just the way I write, because a lot of the way I write kind of translates over into other books. And it's hard for an author to change that. But the fact that you would say, okay, maybe it's just this book, and, look at this other one and see, oh, is there a difference?
Yeah, absolutely. One of my clients actually queried me with a different project that I ended up passing on, and then I signed them for a second project that they brought to me. So just know that a lot of times it really just comes down to a particular project, and not you as an author.
Right. One of the questions we have is, how do you keep contact with your clients after you start working with them? What's your favorite method of communication?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And that's something that if you are querying and you get the call with an agent, something that you should ask them to make sure that their communication methods are in line with yours. So I do kind of a combination. I am in touch through email a lot with my clients. One thing that I am really into is professional development for learning about publishing. Publishing is something that I'm really passionate about, and I want my clients to know more about it. I really want them to be career writers. So a lot of times I'll send them workshops that I've heard about, different events that might be in their area. Those things are through email. When my clients are on submission, I email them all the time. I'm in their inbox a lot. If we're hearing from editors with any feedback or anything like that. So email is my primary form of communication, but oftentimes I do like to have that face-to-face time with my clients as well. So we'll have Zoom calls, particularly if we have something that's a a little bit longer to talk about.
Yeah.
We'll usually have it before we go on submission, just so we can talk about submission strategies. We'll have a Zoom call after I send them back edits, so we can talk through edits and revisions together. I also give my phone number to my clients so we can text. As you could tell, I'm probably a little more of an informal, friendly agent. I do, of course, respect professional boundaries and things like that. And I'm not going to be texting my clients at 3 a.m, which is kind of hard for one of my clients because she's in Singapore. So there's a 12-hour difference there.
Wow.
Yes,
That's
but
rough.
email is usually my go-to.
Right. I'm going to switch things up a little bit and ask you sort of a non-industry question.
Let's bring
because
it on.
I'm a goofy person who likes to do a combination. So with the holidays coming up, do you have a favorite holiday tradition?
Oh, this is a really good one. I feel like the holidays have been on my mind a lot lately, just because I think the holidays this year are going to look a lot different than they usually do.
Right.
This year, or what I love to do is every year I call it a swanky Christmas Eve party for my family. Where I have a really big family, so these gatherings can get kind of big. So it's probably not happening this year, but we'll see. Where it's super fun to just put together like little fun bite things to eat, fun snacks. I love baking. It lets me test out new recipes. I think that as far as holiday traditions, Christmas is one of my favorite holidays. And along with that, all of the holiday baking. As a side note to that, the Food Network pretty much like gives me life these days with all of its holiday baking competitions and baking shows and all of that. Like the Christmas cookie challenge, and I don't know, where they like make the big sculptures out of like Rice Krispies and stuff. I haven't done anything that drastic.
That. I'd be scared. It would like go boom.
Absolutely. Yes.
My father loves to bake too. And we're part German. And so he will make the German, like it's sort of like a fruit cake, the Stollen.
Oh yeah.
And one year he got a little too excited making Stollen. He made 27 loaves.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, he was like, the neighbors were getting them and we were all like, I think we have enough this year. And I come from a big family too. I'm one of 8.
Okay. Yeah.
So I get the whole big family gathering. I have most of my siblings are married and have kids. So we don't all get together anymore for Christmas. We're spread out too far. But I do recall many Christmases where we were all gathered in the living room around the Christmas tree, and there was wrapping paper everywhere. That is like the best.
Yes. So these days my cats get really excited about the wrapping paper.
So does mine. He's actually, you can't see him, but he's laying next to me. He's going to sleep. So I think that's awesome. One of my sisters makes a ton of different cookies every year, and I'm like, you need to like mail them down to me.
Yes. Cookies are probably my favorite thing to make. They have my mom gave me this cookie recipe. It's for peanut butter chocolate chip cookies, which is not really a Christmas flavor, but when you mix peanut butter and chocolate, sign me up for that. And it uses, the recipe is so good, but it uses a literal pound of butter. So, that's just how delicious they are.
Wow, that is incredible. Now, we talked about genres you absolutely love. Now, what are genres you absolutely just could not see yourself representing? It's not that you hate them, it's just that they just aren't your cup of tea.
Yeah, I feel like whenever I get this question, I immediately get a query that changes my mind about it. Or I can say something like, I do not want any romantic comedies. And right now I'm obsessed with romantic comedies.
Right.
It's all I want. So I will say that a lot of it just depends on what is in the market right now. I read really widely. So it's really comes and goes and swings for me. Right now, I'm not hugely into historical romance. If it has, if it's like just a historical fantasy with touches of romance, sometimes that works for me. But just the historical romance usually is not something that I read a whole lot of myself. So I don't know if I would be the best agent for it, just because I'm not super familiar with the market. And I also, people might laugh at this, but I couldn't really see myself ever representing like hardcore erotica or romance, just because I do a lot of work in the children's space. And I feel like it would be hard for my brain to kind of occupy both spaces. I enjoy reading that kind of thing in my free time. Was a proud 50 Shades of Grey fan a couple years ago.
Right.
Like no shade at all towards those genres. I think they're great and enjoyable, but it's just very hard for me to keep focused on the kidlit space, and then also the more adult space is just something that is would be a little bit of a challenge for me.
Yeah, you don't want to cross BDSM.
Yeah.
There might be a problem right there. What has been your favorite thing about agenting?
My favorite thing about agenting, and one of the reasons why I switched from editor to agent, is getting to guide authors' careers. Right now, as we go towards the end of the year, I've been having chats with each of my clients about their goals, about milestones that they'd like to reach with their author careers, and hearing them talk about their next projects just gives me so much creative energy to brainstorm with them, to kind of guide them. I have to say that, you guys, there are so many talented writers out there, and I don't know where you all get your story ideas from, but it's those conversations where I get to be like on the ground developing content with them, helping them work through plot problems or character problems, helping to make sure that their pacing is on point, that their character arcs are meaningful, and everything is all well developed, is really the part about agenting that I love. On the other side too is I love playing matchmaker for my clients and matching them up with an editor. That's agenting is hard. It's hard selling books and finding an editor match. But when you do find that slam dunk, when you're looking at different editors' wish lists, and you're like, oh, yes, I have the perfect project for them, it is so exciting to hit send on that pitch to them, to hit send and have the editor say, hey, this sounds really great. Can't wait to dive in. It's like, yes, I can't wait to hopefully share good news with my client in a couple of weeks when you send me that offer letter.
Right. Oh, that would be exciting. I remember because I do have previously published work, as you know, but the audience might not know. I was published with a small press, and my contract is expiring, so I'm going to be self-publishing those previously published work, but my new stuff I want a little more direction with, so that's why I'm pursuing the query route. And so I understand that excitement, because I remember when I got my offer of representation in my email box from the editor, and I mean, it was so funny because I had pitched them at a conference, so I got a feel for whether or not they would take me on, and I kind of had a clue that they would. So when I got that, it was just like, oh, I knew. And then other times it was like, oh, wow. So
yeah.
I get that excitement. I do. Although it's not the same, but I do get it. How does a person stand out in the slush pile to you? You mentioned the commercial hook.
Mm-hmm.
Can you kind of outline that for us?
Yeah. So I have found a lot of my clients through Twitter pitch events, DV Pit, shout out to Beth Phelan, is just probably my favorite Twitter pitch event. And standing out in the slush pile is kind of like participating in a Twitter pitch event where you're limited, by, what is it, 200 something characters.
I think it's 240.
To 240 characters to succinctly and in a way that makes your story sound marketable, explain what your book is about. That is something that is really hard, really, really hard to do. So when I talk to writers about getting that hook at the beginning of your query, think about what you could squeeze into a tweet. Think about what are the 3 things that make your story stand out from everything. That is very, very hard. So I also encourage writers to find their people, find your writing group, do it together with your beta readers, with critique partners, to really, really fine tune and make that hook short and memorable.
Yeah, I get it. What are some of your favorite authors that are not your clients?
Oh, this is a great question. One of my queens is Leigh Bardugo, who I absolutely fangirl over all the time. I love just the way that she writes. My favorite book series is her Six of Crow book series, Crooked Kingdom. What I really like about that series is that it's about characters who are not your traditional heroes. It's about people who are not the chosen one that you often see in YA fantasy, in the fantasy space as a whole. It's about these people on the fringes, the people who are forgotten, the people who aren't really involved with the global stakes, with the prince and the princess. Some of them don't have magic. And I thought that was such a fresh feel for the fantasy genre. I also love all the representation that is in that ensemble cast, where it's people who are just casually queer, who are casually disabled, and that's not their conflict in the story. It's just a part of who they are. That's one thing that I'm always looking to find more in especially genre fiction, where if you have a queer character, the conflict is not about them coming out. It's just who they are. I want to see queer characters, people of color. I want to see disabled characters living their best life and not have their marginalizations play a part in their conflict. It's just who they are. Another book that I really like is a picture book, Hair Love, which is just a gorgeous, gorgeous book. Picture books are kind of in my jam lately. I feel like I have been looking for reasons to laugh. I also really love Dragons Love Tacos. I
haven't heard of that one.
Sometimes I mix up the titles. I'm like, oh wait, no, it's Dinosaurs Love Tacos, and now I'm blanking and just like having
some animal loves tacos.
yes. But things that are just like cute and kind of ridiculous.
Right.
They're funny.
See, this is where I wish that I had known about you back when I first wrote my series, because that kind of quirky humor and stuff is mostly in that series. I haven't been able to capture that magic as much.
Yeah, quirkiness is hard.
It is.
It's hard.
It's so funny because the guy that is the hero in my novel, he is a descendant of the Greek god Morpheus, and he's supposed to be, he's like a dream weaver. He makes dreams come true for humans. And the heroine, Lainey, she says he thinks he's all that in a bag of chips. and he's just like, he's just like, I know I'm awesome. And he's always talking about how awesome he is. So I made the mistake of saying to my husband, I go, oh, you know what I realized? He goes, what's that? And I said, I realized that I've subconsciously based Jason off of you. I didn't know I was doing it at the time. I mean, they're not exactly alike, but little things made, I was looking at it and thinking about it. And he looks at me with a big grin on his face. And he goes, that's why he's so awesome. And I was just like, oh, that's the last time I tell you anything. But yeah, I mean, I keep kicking myself that I didn't know you back then. I'm like, that's the one that I should have queried people with.
Yes, give me the quirky.
Man, I missed that. I missed it. I missed the boat there. But I have here a question about your favorite sweet treat when you've had a very busy day, rough or good, either way. A favorite treat that you like to just unwind the day with.
Yes. So my favorite, I have like a whole list of favorites. I am like the queen of guilty pleasures over here. So any combination of chocolate and peanut butter. So of course, Reese's. I also love Ferrero Rocher chocolates. They are so stinking good. And I just got this giant thing of them from Costco. Like so many of them, which is like, probably not going to be great. Yes.
Overkill.
Yes. But I also love relaxing with a glass of wine in the evenings. I recently joined a wine subscription club. So I'm kind of overkill again, because now I have tons of wine in my fridge. I got a wine fridge just for it, which again, a little bit overkill. But those are kind of my favorites. I think that there is really something to be said though. I really also enjoy reading queries and going through my query manager, reading pages and pages and pages and like getting ready to get invested with the story. And I love doing that over a glass of wine. It's funny because my partner will be like, I see you're drinking a glass of wine. Does this mean you're reading, you're editing, or you're writing? Like, based on that glass of wine in your hand, I'm guessing you're reading.
There you go. Knows what you're doing based on what's in that glass.
Yeah. It's either wine or coffee,
So I know how to bribe you. So now you're gonna get these little gifts. Okay, you really want to represent me, so here's
a Reese's.
Hey, I'm a Godiva girl. So you get those truffles. Oh my gosh. They are the best. I have a question here that is, where is your favorite place to read?
This is a really good question. So as I was telling Bethany just before we hopped on the chat, is I recently moved about a month ago. Before that, I live in West Michigan, and I lived kind of in a city. I had like a very small little post stamp sized backyard, but I had set up a hammock back there. And in the summer, I loved reading in that hammock. I would just put books on my Kindle or my iPad and just enjoy them there. Now that I'm at my new house, I haven't quite figured out where my new go-to reading place is. I did kind of set up this little nook in my office, which could be a potential reading place, but I'm still kind of figuring it out. I'm a big fan of spending time outdoors when it's warm, but of course, West Michigan, so that time's limited too.
You're cold right now.
Yeah, we're cold. I need to come to Texas by Bethany if I want to really soak in the reading time outside.
Hey, you come down here. Nan and I will. Texas is known for its Southern hospitality.
Yeah.
And Nan and I will definitely show you around, hang out, go grab some coffee somewhere.
Feed me some Godiva.
Yes, we do have Godiva stores down here. So, hey, we're not complete. We don't usually ride around with the 10-gallon hats, and that's saved for special occasions like rodeo. So yeah, no. that puts me in mind of one of my sisters has this house. She doesn't live extremely far from me, so I've been to her house a couple of times, and it's this great house that has all these little nooks and crannies. And she recently redid one of her rooms to be like a reading room. So she has like bookshelves and chairs and stuff like that. And I'm like sitting there going, my house is too small. I do not have a big house. And so I can't do that. So I'm just like, okay, I'm jealous. That's it. So I just want that. I'm not an outdoorsy person. I'm not, but I do like to, when I am up in Michigan, because as I told you, I have relatives up there. Next time I go to Midland, I'm gonna have to like take a turn.
Yeah, take a turn by West Michigan. Come drop in and
Right.
say hello.
Definitely. But my aunt and uncle have a lake house on Lake Wixom, and they have a hammock. And there was, I think it's still there, a weeping willow tree. So the
Oh, that
branches
sounds
just
so
fall
lovely.
down. And so
Yes.
we would in the evening, we'd sit out in the lake and just watch the sun go down, and they'd have a fire pit. And my uncle would get out his guitars, hand one to my dad, and we'd have sing-alongs and stuff. So
That
much
sounds so
fun.
magical.
It is. It really, I come from a very musical family in the sense that my father is self-taught musician. My one of my brothers, he took to music like a fish to water, and now he's got a PhD in musical composition.
Wow.
Yeah, and his wife too. And then I have, relatives who would play the guitar, and I happen to know people who are in the business. Like I told you before, I have weird connections. I really do. But yeah, I get all that. I'm gonna open up the chat because we actually have some space to take a few questions from the audience. So if you have a specific question that we have not um, hold on, that we have not answered, go ahead and put it in the chat box real quick. Make them quick because we want to also get to pitches. So we can take a couple questions from the audience, not many, but we can take, I don't know, maybe about 2 or 3. So I don't know why my chat box is being weird. So
I will say, I think this question came up earlier today, Bethany, but I'll just repeat it here.
Sure.
Some people have asked if I'm only open to queries from people in the US. No, as I mentioned earlier, one of my clients is in Singapore. So if you are located anywhere in the world, I will be so happy to hear from you.
Oh, geez. Okay, we actually need to fix the setting on our chat because currently it's set to private. All right, here we go. Now I opened it up to. Sorry about that, folks. I had it only on private. So all right, here we go. We have one from Madeline, and she says, "How do you feel about YA sci-fi right now and its place in the market?"
I give YA sci-fi we'll say two giant thumbs up. So YA sci-fi, I feel like a lot of editors and publishers right now are kind of not quite sure what to do with it, just because we don't have that much YA sci-fi in the market, and the YA sci-fi that we do, to be fully transparent, is written by straight white guys. So I would love to see that space diversify. Before, like I said, before I was an agent, I was an editor at HarperCollins, and one of the books that I acquired was a sci-fi duology, Devastation Class. Go check it out. It gave me very much like Star Trek, Star Wars vibes. So yes, Madeline, write your sci-fi. Send it to me when you're ready, because I definitely want to check it out. Sci-fi was one of my favorite genres growing up. I don't know if anyone here has read the Animorphs series, but that was my jam circa, like 1999 or so. So I'm always looking for sci-fi that is accessible, sci-fi that you don't need a PhD to go through. Yes, so be encouraged, Madeline. I want your sci-fi, and I know that other agents do as well.
I feel like, for some reason, I feel like Pintep Dunn did some sort of almost sci-fi type book not too long ago. I can't remember. For some reason, it felt a little sci-fi to me. But I mean, then again, the book that I had was like, I didn't realize, because I went to RWA Nationals,
Mm-hmm.
and so they were giving it out because she was one of the speakers, and it was the middle of the series. So I'm like, oh, this is not the first book. Whoops. So I was like, okay, gotta read in order. There is okay, so folks, we have more than 3 questions. So if I don't get to your question, I'm really sorry. We have to keep this short because we have to do pitches. So I'm going to, here we go. We have one that says, they've seen from Carolina. I hope I'm saying that right. If I'm not, I apologize. It says, I have seen a few agents on Twitter talking about POVs that are a hard sell or outdated, such as Third Omniscient. What are your thoughts on that? Thank you.
That's a great question. I was recently talking about Third Omniscient point of view with some of my editor friends, where we were chatting. We're like, man, I feel like I'm reading a lot of Third Omniscient point of views. Is it making a comeback? It kind of seems like it is making a little bit of comeback. I struggle a little bit personally with Third Omniscient, just because I am so used to getting really up close and personal with a single character instead of a whole host of characters. So sometimes Third Omniscient can feel overwhelming. That's not to say that there's not a market for it and that it can't be done well. I just think it's a little bit of a challenge to really get in the headspace of multiple characters, to get really personal, to get really close to them. So don't be discouraged about if you're ever seeing anybody saying something that's outdated or not trendy, because publishing trends will always come back around. As far as writing your Third Omniscient, if you feel that that is what the story needs and what it deserves, by all means write it that way, and gather with your critique partners, with your betas, and get their feelings about if they are feeling overwhelmed by the amount of feelings in your book and from all the different characters, and really work hard to make sure that it works, that it comes off as something that the narrative needs.
Right. Someone said, okay, let me get to, oh, here we go. Sky Regina says, for Canadian writers writing Canadian set stories, do you think it would be an issue in American publishing sphere?
Nope, I don't think so at all.
I don't either. That's a quick question. So good job on the quick questions. Very good. Sky, you get kudos for that one. That was nice and fast. Let's see. Rona Mandel says they love writing humor. And how do you feel about those ads?
Anthropomorphized.
Yes, I'm terrible at pronunciations. I have learning disabilities, people. I'm not ignorant. Food as story characters, not animals, but food.
Yeah. Well, Rana, I would have to say that largely depends on the genre. And I am intrigued. For picture books, I think that you would have probably no problem at all. If it's like an adult humor book, that sounds tantalizing.
Have a bunch of talking apples and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kimberly Lee is saying hello, and she's asking, do you see specific trends in the picture book market that are currently of appeal to editors, publishers?
Yeah, lately I've been seeing a lot more picture book editors who are craving nonfiction. And when it comes to nonfiction, they are looking for stories that haven't been told before. So if it's a biography, we have a ton of biographies, say about George Washington, but we don't have as many biographies about Martha Washington. Or if it's a period of history, the market is a little inundated with World War II. But what about like I don't know, the 1960s, where it's kind of like an overlooked time period. So they're really looking for I guess, fresh perspectives. And they're also, of course, looking for perspectives of people who come from marginalized backgrounds. When it comes to historical nonfiction, so much of history is, told through the lens of the patriarchy. It's told through the lens of the upper class. It's told through the lens of people who are white, who identify as male, and we don't get some of the stories from the historically marginalized. So those types of stories too, editors are really seeking out when it comes to picture books.
Here's the last question, then we'll get to pitches. Jasmine Baker says, hi Hannah, hi Bethany, what are some hard sells that you will fight for in the industry?
Oh, that is a great question. One thing that comes to the top of my head, and this is a very, very polarizing discussion between agents and editors and writers, is a hill that I will die on are talking animals in middle grade. I loved Pax. I loved the one and only Ivan. Those books broke my heart, and I loved them. I'm a huge animal lover. But a lot of editors and a lot of agents, animal protagonists are a hard no for them. But for me, it's a resounding yes, 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 give it to me. Yes, so that it really comes down to personal preference. And I have another hard sell, another hill that I'll die on, are the quiet books. I think that a lot of editors and agents are looking for the super flashy, a lot of fantasy type sells. And I feel like a lot of the quieter books, which are usually contemporary, the stakes are usually very personal. That's a hill I will die on as well, is those quieter books, those books where the stakes are very personal and it's really just about character arc. It's not about saving the world, it's just about saving yourself. Yes, that is the second hill that I will die on.
There we go. Well, Ben, let me guess. Are you a fan of C.S. Lewis's Narnia books?
I feel like a bad literary person for saying this, but I've actually only read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And
oh, my heart. Oh, my poor heart.
I know.
I read all 7 and I loved them. So yeah, because I was thinking talking animals and it made me think of Aslan almost immediately.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, here's how the pitches are going to work. You're going to put your genres in the chat box. And Hannah, if you go to the bottom of the screen and you click on chat, you should be able to see the chat box.
Yes, I'm good.
Okay, so folks, put what genre your book is that you want to pitch, and she will pick based on genre, because that oh my goodness, they took me seriously. Can you see the chat going up and up?
Bring it on.
They're like, this is the entire reason that I came to this.
Yeah. I should say I'm open to queries right now. And so if we don't get to your pitch, send it to me anyways. Cold querying works. So
right. Okay. So we have here, starting that, I'm trying to make sure that we didn't miss anything here. All right. So we've got mid-grade contemporary, we've got fiction picture book, we've got adult contemporary fantasy magic realism, We have YA sci-fi. We have picture book Own Voices. We have a picture book. We have adult romantic comedy, which you were talking about not too long ago.
I know.
We have a feminist fantasy, and we have adult literary fiction with Own Voices elements, ND and LGBTQ. So
Awesome.
I
I'm really
don't
excited.
know what you want to start with.
Can we start with the feminist fantasy, Laura?
Okay, Laura, yeah, unmute yourself and start your video. And you have to make it like a Twitter pitch.
Sure thing, trying to start my video.
Yeah, and if it doesn't start, that's okay. You can, there we go. We see you now. Hello, Laura.
Hey.
Welcome.
Thank you for hosting this, Bethany. Hi, Hannah.
Right, well, it was the Author Encounters hosting this. I'm just the interviewer.
Thank you for facilitating.
There we go.
So my book is a fantasy version of the Persephone myth, in which Persephone is not a victim, but a heroine. So it's Persephone empowered, a cross between Circe and high fantasies with multiple points of view, such as Game of Thrones or The Blade itself, or Six of Crows, but a little more adult. I love Leigh Bardugo also so much. So it's mostly Persephone's point of view, but also woven through our Athena, Artemis, Hecate, other lesser known goddesses as well. For my thesis, going way back, my thesis for honors creative writing, my advisors compared my writing to The Sound and the Fury with all my point of view distinct voices. So that also comes through in this piece, this book. It would be dark feminist fantasy, adult, and 180,000 words.
All right. Thank you, Laura, for being so brave too and like pitching in front of everybody. So if you guys have ever done like writing conferences or pitch contests, this is, yeah, right. Sometimes I like spend Saturdays listening to pitches. So I thought, first of all, your pitch was really good. Your comp titles, spot on, way to go. I was a classics major in college. So of course you got me with your Persephone retelling. Yes.
Man is applauding you.
Good job.
She's the other owner of the Author Encounter and she's applauding.
Oh, thank you, Nan.
Yeah, so I love the fresh twist that you put on the retelling. I will say that 180,000 words is pretty long. Yeah. We probably want to stick to closer to 100,000 words.
Okay.
So which is quite a bit shorter than what you've got, but never fear. Sometimes when books are that long, it's really just actually two books masquerading as one book. So should you continue revising and editing, look for a natural breaking point of where you can divide that up a little bit. But otherwise, this concept sounds right up my alley. You had me at feminist, fantasy, darkness, Persephone. There are a lot of really great marketable marketable hooks in that concept.
Wonderful, excellent. Thank you so much. Go blue.
Go
Sorry, Bethany.
blue.
Oh no, go green, go white. All right, we're gonna mute you and turn off your video again, no offense, but we wanna open it up to another pitch. Okay, who do you want next?
Can we go to Jasmine's romantic comedy?
Sure, all right,
You knew it was happening.
Unmute and...
Hello.
Hello,
Hi, Jasmine.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. All right, so I'm just going to start off. So my book is a mixture of red, white, and royal blue, and when Dimple met Rishi. It is, oh no.
No, that's so good.
It is.
She's happy.
All right. It involves Jamie, who is a Black lesbian. She's going through her final senior year. She just wants it to be nice and peaceful. However, when a friend of hers introduces a new gorgeous student, she knows it got 10 times harder. It includes baked pies, trespassing, and typical gay panic that you find in all relationships. It is about finding love in yourselves and around others. It includes witty one-liners and is overall meant to make people swoon and laugh out loud.
Jasmine, I'm swooning over your pitch. That was amazing. I need this in my query box ASAP. I love red, white, and royal blue. really want to read this book.
Laura wants to read your
Yes.
book.
Yes. I also,
Jasmine.
one thing that I have really been looking forward to in the romantic comedy sphere is queer characters. And you brought it, Jasmine, you brought it. And yes, I wish I had more constructive feedback other than I need to read this book.
I just want to like share everyone's like experience with everyone being queer and Black and stuff like that, and make sure
Yes.
everyone's experience is not just a white man.
Yes, exactly. I think that's another really, really strong point of your book too, is that you not only have queer characters, is you. So it sounds like you're exploring intersectionality with a Black queer experience, which is different. It's very different than a white queer experience. So send, Jasmine, send.
I shall.
All right, we have time for at least one more. So what are you looking at?
Okay, scrolling here.
I know, it's so hard to choose.
I know. How about Kimberly Lee's picture book?
All right, Kimberly, you can unmute and bring up your video. Hello, Kimberly.
Hi,
welcome.
Bethany and Hannah.
Hi,
Good,
Kimberly.
good. I was going to say good morning because it's morning here, but it's actually night for you guys. I'm in
Yeah,
Indonesia.
my time is 7 p.m. And by the way, I've got to say you're gorgeous. I'm just
Oh.
happy to say that right.
Well, thank you. That's very sweet.
Yeah.
This is my morning face. Oh, it's terrible.
There's nothing wrong with the morning face, right? Just get that coffee. All right, go for it, Kimberly.
Okay. So Hannah, this is The Magic That Lives is a lyrical picture book at 473 words in which a parent imparts her mother's myths and memories to her child in an ode to Malaysian folklore and the cultural tradition of storytelling. It's an intergenerational tale of love, loss, and realizing that the people that came before us still live on in the stories that we tell. And it's intended to honor the role of oral storytelling in Southeast Asian culture, as well as the storytellers themselves. And for context, it melts the lyricism of Emily Winfield Martin's books with the history of, I'm not sure if you've heard it, but Dan Yacarino's I'm Story, which basically talks about how a story grows and the importance of storytelling. So yeah, that's my pitch in essence, and keep it short for you.
Yeah, Kimberly, that sounds like a really beautiful story. And it also sounds like something that's right up my alley. When it comes to picture books, in addition to quirky, silly things, I also really love beautiful lyrical voices. And I also, themes that I love are themes of family and how family traditions are different from family to family, from culture to culture. I am a really big fan of just the history of oral storytelling as well, just as like a personal, perhaps a strange little interest of my own, and as well as the spin of Malaysian folklore that you put on it makes it also sound very something that's very fresh and very needed in the market. The picture book space, I feel like, needs more diversity and needs more voices like yours, where kids can learn more about all their cultures, where kids can see themselves in different kinds of books, can learn more about traditions that their families might have. And so these themes, I feel, are evergreen themes. They're always going to be trendy. And I would love to take a look at your story when you're ready to query it as well, Kimberly.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Hannah.
Yeah.
And thanks so much, Bethany, for doing this.
Oh, no problem. All right, go ahead and mute and take down your video. That was all the pitches we have time for. We're gonna have to end this, but Nan, myself, and Hannah are gonna hang back to debrief. So the nice thing about this series of interviews that we're doing is that this is not the only one, folks. We got one next month, and then next year the live ones are going to be every other month. And so do check out.
If you're a member, remember you can always catch the replays. Otherwise, the replays aren't going to be available.
Right. Only members of the Author Encounter can get to the recorded things like recorded events like this. So do check out our website. It's the Author Encounter, all one word, .com. and you'll see the ways to join. So everybody's saying thank you and goodbye. Thank you for coming. We appreciate it. And
Thank
we
you
will-
everybody for coming. It's been awesome.
Yeah, thank you guys. I hope to see you all. Query me if you're ready and think we're a fit.
all right, so let's
I'm like so sad to see all their names disappearing. I had so much fun hanging out.